The second story that you all are reading is one of my favorites from John Updike, which is A&P. A&P is a story that was published in 1961, and this story deals with a pretty straightforward scenario involving a grocery store and a young cashier and some customers who catch his eye. And I'll leave it at that so as not to spoil anything, but some things that you want to be paying attention to in this story. The overarching theme of this story has to do with rebellion and conformity. So at this point in time, as the 50s moved into the 60s, you have this great cultural shift. If you think of the 50s, this is sort of the Leave It to Beaver time in history. This is when very traditional values are in place, the sort of family unit. There are very sort of conservative expectations about how people act and dress and behave, and those sort of social expectations are in place in the 50s. And then as you move into the 60s, this generation, or this point in time, is noted as the birth of hippies and free love and this sort of freedom, this rebellion against that. And what happened as the 50s moved into the 60s is that you had an entire generation of people, about 70 million teenagers, the baby boomer generation, as it were coming of age. They were becoming adults. And what do people want to do as they're coming of age and figuring out who they are and who they want to be? They rebel. They rebel against things. And we see rebellion happen in a number of different ways in this story, both on the page and in more interpretive ways. So that's something to be paying attention to there. You're also looking at character in this story. The character who tells us the story, Sammy, gives us a very vivid picture of all of the other characters in the story through his eyes. And what you want to be paying attention to is how he characterizes the other figures in the story, how his description of them reflects back on him, and how this sort of sets us up for the different dynamics in the story. The other element that you'll want to think about in both of your stories this week is plot. So particularly in Hemingway, we have a lot of parts of plot that are not necessarily addressed. And that's a choice. Remember, all of these things happen by design. So you'll want to think about, what parts of the plot are missing and what the parts of the plot that are there tell us about the meaning of the story. And the same is true in A&P. You'll want to think about what parts of the story are functioning to tell us about conflict, to tell us about the overall implication of the story, to tell us about the takeaway from the story. You want to be thinking about these things as well. Now, if you have any questions about these stories, I encourage you to reach out to me, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about them and your reactions to them in your quizzes at the end of the week.